KDOT goes in with. Big project.
Nature.
It's almost $5 million.
Oh, yeah. Not cheap for sure.
It's 5:35. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you join for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, nothing under proclamations, so moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have any comments or anything? Brad?
No, you have that resolution order for the 2026 gap favor.
Any questions from the commissioners? All right, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Not Don?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. Moving on to old business resolution 2026-04 employee handbook.
Yeah, so we discussed, making some updates to our employee handbook. Last time I had brought back, 3 changes. One of them was to per diem. I had taken that back to the way it was. The 2 changes that are left would be a change to the personnel policy that states that the city will provide free mental health. This is our employee assistance program that we've adopted. This just puts it into our employee handbook. And the second change would be to allow employees to donate vacation time as well as sick time to the shared leave bank. And we have sick leave bank before. This will allow an individual like myself. I know I have a lot of vacation hours, and it's impractical for me to use that many. It would just allow me to be able to donate that time as well. That way, if people need that, if they're in need of some kind of, if they have an emergency, if they need that leave, then it's there for them. And so those are the 2 changes that we have to the personnel policy. And I'm open to any questions or any comments that anybody might have.
Now, if we don't agree to go back with Lucent in the future, then we would just adopt another change in policy for the mental health.
We could do this in a couple of different ways, and so that's one of the major reasons why I know Lucent offers a lot more than just a free,
Services.
yeah, so they offer a lot more services. And so that's the reason I just have those mental health services in here instead of all that other stuff, because that gives us some leeway to have that program like we want. We can do that a number of different ways. But I wanted to make sure that, because really that was the goal of the employee assistance program, to make sure that that was available for employees. And so, that's why the changes in it like that.
I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026-04, updating the personnel policies and guidelines for city employees.
Second.
So moved and seconded to approve resolution 2026-04. Is there any further discussion? Not Don?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. Moving on to new business, the KDHE loan amendment.
Yeah, so this one is pretty easy, honestly, because doesn't happen too often, but every now and then we're able to actually approve something that's less than what the original amount was. The original amount of the KDHE loan was $2,862,200. This amendment takes that down to $2,276,942.47. And so that's just amending that loan, making sure that's going to be the final loan amount for KDHE. Our next steps on this one would be to take this to USDA. They will be doing the final buyout for the final terms of that loan. But this is just dealing with the KDHE part. I just need a motion to approve the loan amendment and authorize the mayor to sign.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the KDHE loan amendment and allow the mayor to sign.
Second.
And a second to adopt the KDHE loan amendment and authorize the mayor to sign. Any further discussion? Not done.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. Item 3 under new business, neighborhood revitalization.
Yeah, so the county commission meeting held their public meeting on December 31st, 2025. There was a lot of good discussion on that, a lot of good information was put out there by the county commission. I think they really got the information out there at what this program was, what it can be utilized for. Just getting that information to the public is very important. We have two resolutions before us tonight. One of them is resolution 2026-01, which would formally adopt the county neighborhood revitalization plan. And a separate action, I would need 2026-02, and that would authorize the mayor and the city clerk to sign a local agreement between Brown County and the city of High Point. In order for us to implement that plan.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026-01, adopting the neighborhood revitalization plan.
Second.
Been moved and second to adopt resolution 2026-01, adopting the neighborhood revitalization plan. Any further discussion? Not done.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. The next one.
I'll make a motion. To adopt resolution 2026-2, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign the interlocal agreement between the city and Brown County.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt resolution 2026-02. Any further discussion? Done.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. Item 4, the grass and leaf ordinance 2145.
So the grass and leaf ordinance 2145, we had discussed this at our last official meeting. Sorry, I have something in my throat. Meeting in December, we discussed this about having an ordinance that would just make it illegal make it against city code to intentionally discharge grass and leaves into the streets. And so we had a discussion the last time at our last meeting, and we had discussed what we could do with that. We were asked to bring something back, and so that's what we have before you now. Now, I know there's been a lot of discussion about the grass and leaf ordinance, whether even this is the right time or not to bring this up. I would say this, that the current sweeper that we do have, it's inefficient for the job that it does. It will pick the grass, it will pick the leaves up especially. Really, the grass is pretty straightforward. The leaves really are most of the concern here, although the grass is a problem. The leaves are the larger problem, I would say. The sweeper that we do have, although it's inefficient, will do the job. So really what this is about isn't, we're just asking that we have something to stand on when we ask people not to do this, so it doesn't compound the problem. However, the street sweeper that we do have, like I said, it takes a long time for it to happen. There's a good example today. I saw the street sweeper have to do like 8 passes in order to pick up a pile. And this was something that was right into the street. This is on North 6th Street. And so it does cause problems for us. This is not about wind blowing leaves around. This is not about unintentionally getting grass into the street. Those things are going to happen. There's nothing we can do about nature. We have bigger problems as far as leaves go in this town, whether we need to get specialized equipment for that, to remove the leaves. And I think that's why there's desire among some people to, maybe, delay this until we can figure some of that out. However, I would say this, as far as us being able to enforce something, this is why I'm recommending this one, is because, I would like to have us something that we could, that our officers could stand on. And so if we see somebody doing it, breaking into the street, blowing grass to the street, we can stop them and ask them, hey, could you please not do that? But we have something to back us up on, where to say the next time it happens, we could, take enforcement a further step at that point. Writing people tickets is never the goal here. Our goals are never to, find people. That's not what we want to do as a city. We just want to protect. We're going to be putting a lot of money towards streets in the next 10 to 20 years. And that's really what this is about, is protecting what we have. And now there's going to be a lot of planning that comes along with that too. And like I said, and that's why I think there is kind of a question whether this is the correct time for this or not. But but we need to have a good plan moving forward. But I do think that no matter what happens here, I'm always going to recommend that we do something like this, because then when we do ask, it gives us a reason to ask that. Right? And so that's why I'm recommending that we pass this. I'm open to any discussion or any questions that anybody might have, and I'll just open it up at this time.
Well, I just like to say, I think, I think it would be wise of us to, put this off maybe until the summer and explore some ideas on how we can be more proficient as a city, as actually picking up the leaves and doing our part of this before we put this in place. And the reason is, I mean, I remember years ago that people did put their leaves in the street and the street sweeper picked it up. I've done some research on this. Lots of cities have a vacuum and they basically just have a leaves day where, people actually do kind of put them in the street and then the city goes around and picks up all the leaves. I think that would be something that would be really great to do if we could make that happen. And so I've seen some equipment that is actually fairly cheap, that other towns use. We're not talking about a substantial amount of money, even $10,000 to $20,000. And I think that it's just we're the city of Maples. I think that we can do a better job ourselves of picking up these leaves. We do have a problem with our street sweeper. One resident said that they saw it go by 4 times. And so the way we're doing it now is not feasible. It's not worth the man hours. We would actually be saving money by buying some type of vacuum machine to go around and clean the town up, as I feel like we should be doing, like we did back in the day when we had the old sweeper. So what all I'm asking is let's just hold off on this and let's explore some ideas. We have until October before there's going to be any more leaves on the ground. So if we can come up with a better solution to clean our streets when the leaves are down, we might be in 6 months, we might be saying, hey, we're asking people, go ahead, put your leaves in the road. And Saturday, or, this week we're going to be coming around picking up all the leaves. I do think that this is a better solution and it's going to help our residents out tremendously as well. And it'll also make our town look much cleaner and nicer.
I agree with that completely.
I was just thinking that this isn't going to hurt anything to have it in the policy book. Even if we do happen to get a vacuum, if we do, I thought this was quite expensive, but let's say we do find something, it's still going to be an issue because it won't be that you can always put your leaves in the street. If we rent or get some piece of machinery, it would be this week you do this. Well, then people still need to know that's not what you do all the time. I don't think it hurts anything because I said, we're not gonna run around and ticket people, but we've gotta give our people some teeth behind it, so. And until we have, actually are able to buy some piece of equipment, I think this covers us.
Well, I just see no point of putting an ordinance in that we're not going to enforce. And when you say that we're not going to write tickets, then there's no sense of even having an ordinance.
Well, we say not writing tickets, it's not never, it's just not the first time. If I'm, if Mickey's driving down the street and sees somebody out there the first time blowing leaves out, he's not gonna slap a ticket on him. It's gonna be, hey, Laura, remember you shouldn't be doing that. Okay, and then it's the next time. So there would still be enforcement, but there'd also be, you have to have a stopping off point to discuss it first. Instead of just, we can think the best of people, but if some people, if they don't see that there's a law behind it, they're gonna do it no matter what.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Because if you've never been the person to have to walk up to a person's door and say, look, we'd really appreciate it if you don't blow your leaves and your grass waste out in the street, because we're having problems with our sewers. Well, is there a law against it?
Yeah.
Well, no, well, but there are people who will respond like that. You'd like to think that everybody's gonna be a good neighbor, but they're not. I mean, I find it ironic that we're sitting here looking at a complaint that was made to the city about a pile of leaves in a gutter about, 4 or 5 foot tall? That is a complaint that we are required to take action on from a community member. So if the police department doesn't have anything to back this up, what are they gonna do?
Well, but that's where it comes back to where our street sweeper should be cleaning those.
This has been completely blown out of proportion. This is a simple, please don't blow your grass and your leaves in the street because we do not have the equipment to clean it up. It's not that big of a deal. But the community needs to know, we don't have the proper equipment to clean it up. That's why we're doing this. That the sweeper we had previously caught fire how many times trying to pick up these leaves. This is for the person who intentionally piles 4 foot of leaves out in front of their house and they expect us to pick it up when we don't have the equipment to do so.
And we are a very lucky community in that we still have our leaf dump, outside of town. So there is somewhere that can go with those leaves. So that's kind of nice too.
I just feel like it's been totally blown out of proportion. And it's like any other city ordinance. We've got a whole books and books and books of city ordinance. If every one of those city ordinances was strictly enforced, either you do this or I'm gonna write you a citation, nobody'd live here. But those city ordinances are there to give our law enforcement officials the teeth to get things done. And so I support this 100%.
Well, all I'm saying is we've got 10 months until there's going to be a leave on the ground. I wish that we would at least explore the idea of us trying to hold up our part of the deal on this. I don't feel like it's that big of a problem where people are putting leaves in the road. Honestly, I haven't seen anybody do it in years. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but we're the city of Maples. So I think that it could totally wait until the summertime and we could see if how feasible it is to actually do our half of this before we put an ordinance in. It's not going to hurt anything to wait 4 or 5 months.
Brett?
Yeah.
Without an ordinance, is there any way that we can fix this?
We already did. We would already, I think that would be over, we took the loader over there, is that correct? We loaded them up, and how did we get those leaves off from the house?
Oh, just a week ago
Yeah.
or a couple weeks ago. The homeowner got most of them there and then we took the sweeper and got the rest.
Okay.
But they were piled probably, 4 foot high in the street.
And I need to clarify that they were not his leaf.
No,
Somebody else pushed them.
I mean, that's a prime example why we need a city ordinance.
So,
I can still dump a bunch of leaves out my backyard.
Oh, yes, that's right, they pushed him in front of his property.
I can definitely say that. I also, 100% agree with Brian, if we could figure out a program to where we have a piece of equipment that can help with this, I also think that's a great avenue for us to, look at as well. I think that, that could bring this into something that, is very positive for the community. That could be a very positive thing for the community if we were able to do something like that. And I do believe that's something that we should pursue. I know we've been pursuing that. We've had a couple of different ideas on that. There are some different ideas that were brought up, that were shared that I didn't even know about. And so, if we can, and that's input from community members on, social media about things that, like I said, I didn't even know about. And so those are the kind of discussions that we can definitely have. But like I said, for my part of this is just more people that just deliberately do this over and over again. That's what this ordinance is about.
Again, the ordinance is already wrote up. I mean, there's no reason why we can't just wait 4 or 5 months and let's do some research and find out how feasible it is for us to do our part of it and clean the streets back up. I don't have a problem. Again, if it's $100,000 to come up with a solution, then yeah, let's move forward, but we can do it in 4 or 5 months. Again, a leaf's not going to fall until October again. So
Somebody like to make a motion so we can vote on it?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 2145 prohibiting the discharge of leaves and grass into public streets and storm sewer systems.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance 2145. Any further discussion? Not done.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
nay.
Motion passed 3-2. Moving on to parking ordinance 2144.
Parking ordinance 2144, this had been discussed in commission meetings about the desire to adopt an ordinance, that states that the streets are not for long-term parking. I did share an example with the commission on this from the city of Woodlands. I know that we discussed this at the meeting on December 22nd about an ordinance that would be brought back, that a vehicle should be moved every 14 days. On this particular ordinance, I'm not really in favor of passing an ordinance like this. I believe that from the Plain Police perspective, this ordinance would be difficult to figure out whether a vehicle is moved or not. I don't think that it's a widespread enough problem for us to really have an ordinance like this in place. I think that this ordinance could cause more problems than violence. I think that's from, and I'm not speaking, I haven't really directly talked to the police about this, it's just me thinking. And so I'm always open to, different opinions on this. And I think this is hard to enforce. How far does a vehicle need to move, things like that. I do not recommend that we adopt this ordinance. That's just, from discussions that I've had internally. But I would like to open this up to discussions this time.
I'd like to say, I think there's obviously a reason that this came before us to begin with. And this is in regard to vehicles that have sat on the street literally for years, that are registered, they're insured. Do we know if they operate under their own power or not? Can you force the person to get in the car, start the car, move the car so I know that it's operable? As far as determining whether it's been moved or not, there's road chalk. I mean, that's what police use all the time. They chalk tires, they chalk the road. It doesn't have to be a big thing if you've got somebody really bucking you on the ordinance. But I know if I had a car that was tarped, that didn't belong to me, and it's parked right out in front of my house, I would expect the city to do something about it, especially if it's been there for years. You know, again, it's a totality of circumstances. We're not gonna, the police are not gonna go all over town and say, oh, that car, it hadn't moved for 14 days. I better keep an eye on that. No, it's for when people call and say, hey, this car's been sitting here for 3 years in front of my house. It's not even my car. Everything is building up, the leaves and who knows what, it looks bad. So, you know, my opinion is, I support it 100%. It's not, you know, I've read some things on social media that just blow my mind. It's just completely blown out of proportion, like we're gonna drive around and do this to make sure every vehicle in Hiawatha moves within 14 days. No, it's for those limited complaints that we need to have something, some teeth to get it moved.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all.
Did you have anything to add to it? Cause I remember you're the one that first brought this discussion up. I hadn't thought much about it. Mine was mainly if it was a derelict vehicle.
Well,
And that was
yeah,
my bigger
so
concern, but I,
the more I thought about it, you know, the car has to be registered, it has to be insured to be on the street in the first place. And we're policing them even when they're not on the street, if they don't have registration. If they're just pulled up in someone's driveway, we're doing that. I don't know. I don't think that 14 days is awful short. Why not make it 6 months? If the car's there 6 months. I think, you know, people go away. Yeah, we say, you know, they're not gonna police it, but that's what it's there for.
well, but it is complaint driven. I mean, it says that it has to be a public complaint which is received. So.
The problem with all of this is we can't continue to target code. And that's what we're using code for. We're using code to use it when we want or we see fit. If we're going to make a code or an ordinance, it needs to be enforced across the board. We can't just do it when we feel like it. And that's kind of how we've treated code for years. And that, I think, is what upsets the residents so much.
But this one says right here, this is a complaint driven ordinance. So it's not us picking and choosing. It's not us saying.
So
"Oh,
it
I
doesn't
don't-"
matter who complains? Does it matter if it's just one complaint? I mean, that's,
Doesn't matter who complains.
it does matter because it's not black and white. You're still choosing, okay, well, one person might complain about something and then what do you have to have? Do you have to have 3 complaints? Like, it's just not feasible to do it how it's even worded. It's quite ridiculous and it's 100% target coding. What you're going to have is you're going to have neighbors complaining and we're going to be in the middle of it. And that's not a good situation to have. Ask Fall City how it's working out for them. You do not want to get in the middle of the neighborly disputes. And that's what we're setting ourselves up for.
I guess I don't have a strong feeling either way on this. I mean, I'm hearing you, Brad, saying that it's not a big enough issue that there really needs to be an ordinance passed. And the thing is, I can just think of one car in my mind that I wish we could get rid of, but it's not worth. I don't know. I guess I'm leaning towards if you feel as the city administrator, this is not something that's really necessary right now. I suppose that's what I would lean towards. We can make a motion and vote on it, see where we go from there.
So Tom, you kind of brought this about. Is
I
that
did.
correct? Okay, because you had a complaint.
Yes.
Did your complainant go to the police department and say this vehicle's not been moved? It's been parked there for,
Well,
How
I
many
don't
months?
know that he went to the police department, I know he went to Brad,
okay,
you
Well,
know?
You did.
I did, and, okay,
So the
well, they took care of their problem
okay, Because-
without any,
the current ordinance
from
that we do have is that it has to be registered, insured, and capable of movement under its own power. So if you get a vehicle, maybe that's just sitting there, like this particular car I think about quite often, the police department, if they received a complaint, they could go knock on their door, say, please come outside and move the vehicle, show me that it can move under its own power. So there is the teeth in the ordinance if they get a complaint, but this just would simplify things a lot.
And that's true, and that was kind of the original idea for the ordinance in the first place, just to give us something a little bit more to say that, hey, you know, we have this in place for that exact situation, right? That was my original intent of the ordinance.
But then you're not recommending it because the enforcement of the ordinance would be difficult.
This is what, like I said, and maybe I overthought that. That, like I said, I didn't have anything to back that up on. It's not like I had any particular, conversations with law enforcement, for example, on that one. And so I probably have thought more about this parking ordinance than anything else that I've come to in a long time. It's been on my mind every day, and like I said, in my mind, maybe I overthought, maybe I needed to simplify that. I have a tendency to do that anyway, but maybe I need to simplify that down. But when I was thinking about it, I was just like, well, you know, are we setting ourselves up for, I was worried that we're setting ourselves up for more problems than what this ordinance would be. And that's why my recommendation was that we don't adopt this. Because I thought that maybe this would be more trouble than what it's worth. And when I think about it, that's still kind of how I feel right now. Yeah, that is still how I feel right now, but, yeah, that's why my recommendation is what it is.
Well, if there's no further discussion, would anybody like to make a motion so we can vote on this? What do we do there? Nobody makes a motion. And?
You just won't take an action.
Yeah,
So if there's no action taken, that's fine. So the 14 days was something from the discussion of the commission meeting. You talked about a longer period of time, 30, 60, 90 days. We can come up, 14 days isn't set by any particular state statute or code. It would be something we would decide here as a commission. So we have this authority to pass this kind of ordinance. If you want to take a look at something with a longer time frame, we can do that as well. If there's no motion, obviously we won't take an action. If we want to revisit, or any commission would like to revisit this issue at a later time, all you gotta do is let Brad know in the background and do that. It only takes one commissioner to put something on the agenda, so.
Well, the current ordinance that we do have says registered, insured, and it has to be able to move within its own power.
That's true, and that's even on private property.
So if private property.
So
or on
the only
street,
change that this ordinance in the packet looks at it adds an additional section for cars that are parked on a public
Right.
street, or on a street or an alley. That if they don't move within the prescribed 14 consecutive days, then there's presumption that they can't move under their own, the car
Right.
can't move under its own power. But like I said, the 14 days is just, you know, something the commission discussed before. You want to take a look at something that's longer, 30, 60, 90 days, yeah, we can do anything like that. So if there's not a motion today, then we just need to move on. But if somebody wants to revisit the issue, and you know, Brad's really good about getting emails out in front of the commission before the meeting, so you can be prepared to talk about it before we consider that again.
So there could still be a complaint by somebody and something would have to be done, even if we,
Well, yeah, like I said, if we move on without passing this ordinance, if there's a car that's broken down, obviously, we're gonna handle it. We do that already.
Right.
We do that on private property, whether it's parked in the backyard or in the driveway. It's just not applicable to cars parked inside. This would just add to that one small, I can't imagine we run into it that often where there's a car parked on a street or an alley for a continuous period of time. And we, have a couple different mechanisms to address that already. A complaint has to be served on the homeowner, part of the health and nuisance statutes. And so if the officer wants to write a citation, we can do that. Typically what we do right now for enforcement is a citation is issued. If someone comes to city court to find out why they got a ticket, we kind of explain it to them, give them a little bit of time to come into compliance before we proceed forward. If someone blows off city court, typically we don't look for bench warrants. We just bring an abatement resolution to the commission, so we can take care of it ourselves and assess the cost to the homeowner. That would be kind of the same way here if we wanted to move forward. And as we talked about with the discharging grass into the streets, typically, somebody would receive a citation until it becomes a problem.
Mhm.
Somebody receives a citation, they come to city court, we can address the issue there, fine. If not, we'll bring it to the commission so the commission can handle it and assess those costs at a later date. But. Okay, thank you.
Very comfortable with it. No action, no action. Okay, moving on to item 6, animal impoundment discussion.
So we had in the past taken, solicited bids for animal impoundment. At the time that the bids were closed, we did not receive any bids. I did reach out to the Brown County Animal Clinic to have them, to see if they were interested in putting in an offer, which they did. They sent an offer to us, and what they were asking for was a monthly cost instead of a per animal. And there was some discussion that I had with the Brown County Humane Society after the last meeting that we discussed this at, on what that would look like and kind of their reasoning for it, which they submitted me their explanation as to why they were asking for that. The part that's hard for me to get around is just the final cost of that. They were asking for $12,000 a month, or $12,000 a year, $1,000 a month. And so looking at what we've paid in the past for things like this, there was a time in the past with the city where we would pay something similar. That's also back when we used to pay somebody to pick animals up. We actually had somebody on staff that was a dog catcher. And that was really the last time that happened. I look back into the past of what had been done, and the best I could come up was about, there's right around $4,000, I think, for highest, and I don't remember what year that was. And so even in the explanation, I thought that 12,000 was a lot. And so we had to look at alternatives on this one. And so I've been getting my head together with Andy, with Dominic, with Bruce, other members of city staff, just to figure out what we would do if we were to not utilize the Brown County Humane Society. We had to look into what the law states. And so the Kansas does have a law that, governs this as far as what cities can do. I know Andy, he had some discussions.
Sure, so I think Brad included as part of the packet, the Pet Animal Act, we actually have one in the state of Kansas, so. As a city, we would be able to operate a city pound, city owned, as long as we meet the requirements, would not be a long-term facility. The most we would keep an animal would be 10 days, and that's in case of rabies by, but typically the term is much shorter than that. We would have to make an application. It's something other cities have done, I think, is the last resort when there's no other options available to them, and I think that's kind of situation we're facing now. There's not really a reasonable other option that we have. So, yes, it can be done. Her recommendation was put the facility in place. If we're gonna move forward with that, bring it up to statutory requirements. before we get before we get the license to operate it, and, you know, when the day comes, we need to operate it, we can get a license and move forward from there. But it would be a short-term facility, I think that Brad had a good idea to get maybe a independent contractor, like a veterinary technician, or somebody that's a little more familiar with our own city staff, and tend to any animals, so that would be kind of an as-needed basis. Then hopefully after the impoundment period is over, we would either see if the animals could be rapidly adopted out, or other alternatives. But I think Dominic's the one that came up with the plan to make one of our facilities compliant with the statutory response.
Well, me and Brad and some other staff have talked about when we were doing the animal impoundment at our south, the old sewer process building. We still have the cage up, down there, but we only had where one animal could go in a cage. But now to be compliant, like we were talking about, we have to come up with heat and air in that building, because there is none right now. And, get it, and the usable space, is 24 foot long by 15 foot wide, so we could get 3 cages in there. We were talking about 6 foot, by 6 foot. But, we have to, like I said, comply with some of the stuff to get that building up to par.
Isn't that where you talk about maybe a mini split or something like that?
That is correct.
Yes.
So
Heat and cool it.
we did get with a local contractor here to get a price on that. Hey, do you have anything
Yes.
like that yet? Okay.
That would be $3,780 for a 1.5 ton mini split for that square footage of that building. And like I said, we could get a 6x6 cage, 3 of them, 6 inches apart in there. And,
So up and going, what would total cost be?
cage, oh, excuse me.
Go ahead.
The little, research I did on those 6x6 cages, the outside cage is still intact from when we were, catching dogs, I don't know how many years, 7 or 8 years ago. And, that's still intact, but to put up the 3 cages, about $200 a piece for those, and then the almost 4,000 for the, mini split.
By the time that we get everything, making sure that we're compliant, get everything there, I could see the city spending, $5,000-6,000. In order to make sure that we have everything there, we have, that's getting water there, that's getting everything that we would need. And so that would be year 1 after that.
Right, then the next year we wouldn't incur all that cost, right?
That's just getting the facility operating. Now, the open question that we have here is obviously the city, I don't believe can be a facility that can adopt animals out ourselves. If that's a correct statement, I would say.
I don't know that we wouldn't necessarily have the expertise to do that now.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we could eventually contract with an agency to adopt the animals once they've once they've gone through that impound period. Typically, the owners, of the animal, because we impound an animal, we put the animal's picture up on social media, we have a website now, hopefully the owners will come retrieve them sooner rather than later. If not, we have that short, I think, 3-day impound period, and then we turn them over to a different agency for adoption. If that's not available, we'd have to contract with the veterinarian to
Euthanize the dog.
euthanize the dog. And like I said, it's unfortunate nobody wants to do that, but like I said,
How many, animals do we impound?
It varies, 8 a month, I mean, we could go months.
That seems like a lot.
I think I would say that the time frame that we house them is pretty short once the owners find out that because these are typically dogs at large. And once the owners find out that they're missing, they treat the animals.
And then we would also have a chip reader,
We would have shipping, yes.
because now most dogs are chipped.
They're reasonably priced. I think you can get one for $200.
Andy, would we have protection, in a rare case that maybe if one of the animals died when they were in our facility, would we be opening ourselves up for a lawsuit possibly, or?
I mean, yes, but that's probably an insurance rider we just have to carry from this point forward, so. Cause in order to operate it like this, we'd have to be licensed through the state of Kansas. They would send an inspector out, make sure our facilities and our procedures are in compliance. So we have that, and then we would probably just add a rider to our general city's liability policy, which I can't imagine would cost that much, given very few animals we're probably ever gonna house in this facility.
Have we at all asked in maybe like a negotiation with them, maybe not just a set fee, maybe a daily fee for um, like a boarding fee basically, that we could go under contract with them versus just a monthly flat fee or a yearly flat fee?
I defer to Brad's been talking to the Humane Society.
And the Humane Society is present, if they would like to add anything, come up and add anything, their thoughts on this. I know I did let them know that this would be discussed tonight. I, let the Humane Society know what I was going to recommend. However, if they have anything they would like to add.
Just in the answer to the question, though, we haven't really had much in the way of,
Yeah, I mean, that role contract was a prayer.
but on this current form, we haven't really had a lot of progress moving one way or the other.
Right.
I mean, I dislike the idea of having to euthanize a dog, but when it says in 2023, we spent $1,400 on the animal care.
Keep in mind too, that's when we still police cats and we don't do that.
So that's just a big difference.
And I don't, like, we're not gonna rush, and like I said, hopefully we're kind of in the infancy of this procedure, but I know we've had contact with our other agencies vets to adopt the animals out, because frankly, once they've cleared our impound, any requirements or the owner's rights would be basically over with at that point, and would be kind of like a free adoption. So, I don't want to rule that out. We can't do that with a different agency, so, or any agency.
Is there anything you wanted to add? I don't want to put you guys in the spot because I don't know if you.
Well, first off, please. I'm gonna try to not speak with too much emotion, because this is my passion. I've been out for 10 years now. You can ask Brian, you can ask any officer. I get called at all hours of the night. My husband will tell you my phone is on loud. Ringer. I get up at 2 a.m. and go out to the shelter and put a dog up. I get up, go out to the city late when officers can't catch them because they're in full uniform. Who is gonna go out and catch these scared dogs? All of the city workers are men. They're all men. These dogs are terrified, and I'm not bragging on myself, but I can literally walk up to any dog in this city and not get bit and catch it. I don't think you all realize what goes into this and the hours and the passion I pour into these city dogs, and they don't get adopted immediately. They don't. I drive these dogs to the vet for their rabies when they get impounded, when they don't have a rabies. We have city tags, people come out to get city tags from us. I go above and beyond, and so these dogs get sick in this little city pound. They're gonna see day in and day out, different people take care of them. When it comes time to be adopted or euthanized, are you all gonna go with them to be euthanized, or are you just gonna go dump them at the vet to be euthanized? Every dog we euthanize, I am there beside it when he gets euthanized and telling them how much I love them. And I work with most of these dogs in this city, and I can't imagine euthanizing most 75–90% of the dogs in this town. But you all build a city pound and you hold them, you're gonna be like Horton and calling me in 3 days when it's up and you can't find an owner. You can't find an adopter in 6 months, and the dogs went nuts because it's in a 6x6 kennel, not going out in play groups, getting dog aggressive. I mean, we can try to negotiate, but I agree, we can go down from 12,000. But there's a lot of work goes into this, and a lot of it's my volunteer time.
I think if we still do some negotiations, I think there needs to be firm boundaries set on, I'm not doubting that the work you do is valuable, so please don't take it that way.
Mhm.
But we're still stewards of the money
Yeah.
when we're cutting everywhere else. So what I would like to see is if there's still room to negotiate and talk about it, but then definite firm boundaries on what you're willing to do, what that would amount to in cost. Is it going to be an hourly thing? Is it gonna be a per
Or
dog thing? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know enough, cause you're right. I don't
Yeah.
know what all goes into it.
And we have been started doing, like last year, we did a rabies vaccine. I was planning to do it in February, just fixing to post it, where we're doing, we charge people $10 for rabies and that's it. And then we put the rest of the bill and we used some of that 6,000 that you all gave us last year to help pay for that. And I didn't plan, if we got a little more from the city bid, I didn't plan on asking for more money for spaying and neutering in these rabies clinics. But with us doing these rabies clinics, these reduced price, we're protecting the city and we're cutting down on the dogs going into bite. I don't know if we've had a bite this year. And a lot of it's because they have rabies vaccine.
Yeah, but,
So,
and it's great that you're doing all that, but we need to focus on what this contract is all about. And it is just about the dogs at large that we need to pick up and do something with because they're at large. I mean, that's, I see that as being separate from all the other stuff that you do.
Okay.
And I guess I see that's one way you could save 12,000, that money could go towards helping with other stuff, but I want us just to focus on, we've got a dog at large, we need to get him picked up, what are we gonna do? Where's it gonna go?
There are other instances in which the city turns over animals to us. It's not just strays.
BJ, could you come up to?
Sorry.
yeah, that just happened recently.
Yeah, one of the other things that we deal with is, when someone gets arrested. You have to go out in the middle of the night, meet the officers at the house, take the animals, bring them back. So there's those situations too. Not just, stray dogs. Right. I just wanted to point that out.
And that's right, and you have something,
No, I'm not doubting what they do. What think I'm struggling with, and I know what Brad's struggling with, there's not a cost basis for this $1,000 a month. We're gonna set a cost for call nights or going out after hours and impounding somebody and transporting them. I don't understand why we can't get the cost set out. And then if it turns out that it's gonna be way less expensive, we don't wanna operate a pound, we have to. We don't have any other reasonable alternative. So if we wanna table this action, we can bring it back if we have any further negotiations. Maybe.
I mean, I guess that's what I'm saying when I say I want boundaries, I guess that's a better way to say it, the cost base, what's gonna cost to be on call, what's gonna be cost, I mean, that's what I was trying to get out. Didn't word it as nice.
That's why I'd like a month by month, and we can negotiate a monthly price, but I wish it would be a month by month, because then we wouldn't have to turn in that I went out on call.
I know that when we discussed, I mean, I know that is one of the things that you brought up. And, you know, that is something that perhaps maybe it does make great sense for you. And I mean, if it's a pro bono thing, I mean, I think that if there's a negotiation here, I think that that's something that, you know.
I mean, it's way easier to know that you're
It's an
paying,
all-inclusive factor to feel that
yeah,
we handle this, and this,
yeah,
and you don't have to worry about it.
And I understand that too, but as a provider, if I'm taking an all-inclusive package for a standard monthly fee, my fees typically go down, not up 400%. So that's what we're just struggling with is the,
12,000 is a little high.
We didn't do it.
as I think what we're.
A year and a half.
And I understand that we didn't get a bill for a year and a half, but we would have paid it if we got it. I'm not trying to say it's a bad idea for us to renegotiate. I love the idea of us working something out with the Humane Society, but you know, we're limited on options because these dogs are still gonna be needed. They still need impounded until we find a home. So, but if you want to table it till the next meeting, we can come back to what we can get done.
Well, I would really like to table it for 2 weeks and let's sit down and have a conversation. I think us having a pound is going to end up costing us more money than what we think, honestly. And I think if we can come to an agreement with them, I think that's the best scenario for everyone.
I think that's always been the goal, is try and come to some agreement, but right now, that far away, but if we're willing to still come back and talk, I would
Yeah.
agree.
I would rather have the Humane Society doing it, just because they know dogs. Or pets or animals. I'm just, not an agreement of price, so, yeah. We can table it.
Would you like to make a motion to table?
I'd like to say something myself, actually. I think the city breaking ties with the Humane Society would be a huge mistake. Our employees are busy enough trying to do their own jobs without caring for animals. And we would have to be licensed, we'd have to be inspected. Our people don't have the training to handle aggressive bite dogs. There's just innumerable things that the Humane Society does just to get the dog into custody that doesn't even. Then once those 3 days are up, then they're still trying to find and get the dog adopted, this, that, and the other. If we went with this, basically you can euthanize a dog on the 4th day. And, I mean, that's not even enough time to get it out to, the media or anybody that, hey, this dog's in custody. I mean, there's a lot to run in a kennel. It's not just taking a dog and putting it in a cage. Well, who's gonna go feed and water it? Who's gonna take the dog out to go to the restroom at 7, 8 o'clock at night? Is it gonna have to sit there like that? They have the training, the expertise to take care of the animals. So I
I agree
really,
with that, yes.
all the way around, I mean, the police department calls them out to pick up aggressive dogs. The police department, so they've got the training, they know what they're doing with these animals. I just really wanna see us negotiate and come up with something.
Yes.
I think we're all on the same page. I don't think anybody wants to do this. It's just, as Tom said, 12,000 is
It's way too much.
I would like to make a motion to table it.
Second,
Then moved and seconded to table a discussion about the animal impoundment facility. Any further discussion? No?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. Moving on to communications. Brad, anything to?
For communications, we did have one thing that happened this week. I mean, we got a nice letter from Sheriff John Merchant. We had just a couple of employees that were just being observed. Noticed a car where it shouldn't be. This would be Wayne Rodville and Joseph Carroll. Noticed a car where it should be on Layton's lift station, north of town. Made the right call, called the sheriff's departments out there to investigate, ended up being a stolen car. So we got a nice letter, you know, Sheriff John Merchant thanking the employee just for being diligent and helping them out. So that was nice to see. It was nice for the employees to hear as well. So that was a good thing. That's all I have under communication.
Okay, moving on to governing body comments. I have none. Dave?
I don't have anything.
Tom?
I don't have any.
Brian?
Is there any update on the street light?
Yeah, right now, I'm, hang on.
We should have better information for you as far as who's agreeable to getting the easements. Brad and I are gonna meet Wednesday, so I can get in touch with you, or Brad can, probably Thursday or Friday, we'll be in a better position to tell you but the next step will, obviously, is we need the easements from the landowners, and then if that's not gonna happen, we need to make a determination of whether we wanna proceed forward with a condemnation action, but we should have an answer for that before the next meeting for certain, so. Once the property is acquired by easement, then we can go out for bid, so we can bid that project. So I would anticipate we'd have that ready to roll fairly quickly within the next 30 to 45 days.
Thank you.
Laura?
Yes, I just wanted to mention, I manage Maple Grove Complex in Hiawatha. It's a senior citizens housing complex. I wanted to thank Chief Gruber and the police department. They put together a really great packet regarding identity theft and how to avoid becoming a victim of a scam, etc. And they presented a packet for every resident, not just at Maple Grove, but I believe at Vantage Park, other places where you have some seniors that aren't real familiar with all the crime that can come along with their computers, et cetera. And anyway, I just want to thank the police department for putting that together and they did read it, and I actually had one of the residents come in and say, I almost, but I remember, I read that, so I hung up on him. So that was that. So anyway, I appreciate that. That's all.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Moved and seconded.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. On to week.